People of Earth, we come in peace.
Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of central Iowa, welcome to Mac's World Live. Mac's World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Mac's World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, good afternoon. 7 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock on this 16th day of February. I did it again. Why do I want to say this is January? It's because of the weather. It's what it is. 16th day of February in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Welcome back to the second hour of Mac's World Live. Here are the numbers. You hopefully have them in your phone, in your contacts, if you're like me, you still have a written address book. There's 3 numbers that you should know. The first number and the most important number to know is just how to talk to us. I've always said this. It's your voice I want to hear. I am not a pontificator. I don't think you want to hear me talk all day long. Heavens no. My wife would vote second on that one, too. But it is your voice I want to hear. You're the star of this show. The guest today, Tom Henderson, head of the Polk County Democrats. He's the star of the show. You're the star of the show for what you have to say. So it's 515-244-0077. Frank is producing. He'll answer the phone. You'll tell him what you want to talk about, and we'll get you on the air. Then there is the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line, which means you can tell us what you're thinking, but you don't actually have to talk. Some people are a little freaked out about talking on the radio. I'm not, but if you are, that's okay. So we have the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line. It's 515-809-0993. And then, yes, if you want to call my boss and tell him what a jerk I was on the radio today, and you'll never listen again, I want you to call 515, who cares? No, that's not right. 515-251-2663. That's the station number. And, hey, listen, I don't care if you tell me my cheeseburgers are good all the time. I need you to tell me when they're bad. And if I'm doing something on this radio station that you don't think applies, you don't think fits, you don't think is necessary, you don't think is biblical, call my boss, okay? His name is Alf, and just let him know, and he'll nicely remove me from the station for 7 days straight, and then I'll stalk you. All right, so those are the numbers you need to have. What?
I've got a text that just came in.
Okay.
And it says, you guys are doing something right when my kids are asking for me to turn the radio up to listen to you guys on the way home from school.
Wow.
Well, there you go. Hi, kids.
Hi, kids. Hey, you know what? Whoever that is, bring your kids in here one day after school. I'd love to have them in.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We got a nice big room here. We got plenty of microphones. Bring them in here, and they can tell us what's important to them. There's nothing, just think about Art Linkleiter. Art Linkleiter made the whole world go, "Aw," when he put kids on television.
Yeah.
Art Linkletter.
Linkletter?
Letter.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's for old folks now.
That's our English expert over there.
Yes.
So, yeah, whoever that texter was, thank you for your kids, and thank you for listening. God bless you both and all. And let's do that. Let's have a day. Maybe the kids are out of school. Maybe it's an in-service day. Do they still have those, a day? Or maybe it's just one day after school. Top floor, Merle Hay Mall in the tower, and we'd love to have you. I love kids on the radio. They're fun. All right, so that's another way you can talk to us on the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line, 515-809-0993. My guest is Tom Henderson, who is the head, what's the title, Chairman?
You're right. Chair of the Polk County Democrats.
All right, Chair of the Polk County Democrats. And I remember you being on the radio with me years ago, and you were the chair of the Polk County Democrats. Can't they give that job to anybody else?
It's a lifetime term.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? But no, how long have you been that? It's been at least 8.
Since 1998.
Oh, my gosh, 98 to 08. So it's been 18 years.
Yes.
Yeah, and you must like it.
Oh, it's great. It's a great volunteer job.
Volunteer. Right. Yeah, I'm sure it's an hour a week like pouring water at the pancake feed. All right. We've got a couple things we want to talk about today. I'll just tell you what they are. We want to obviously talk about the primaries, the caucuses that we had here, and have Tom kind of lay out the race for us. I do want to talk a little bit about Scalia. I got a piece of sand in my shoe. I just can't figure this out. I just can't. We'll talk about that. The death with dignity law. It looks like that did not make the funnel, but I'd like to find out a Democrat's perspective on that. And then dram shop laws. They're talking about getting away with that. And here's something else I want to talk about, because you're a good, faithful man. You go to Mass every week, have been all of your life. Sometimes I can't figure out how you can be a Democrat and be a Christian. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. And Tom and I have already decided, guys, now listen to this. This is a rule. Frank, who makes the rules around here?
Well, didn't you say I get to when I produce?
No, I did not. When you're a guest on this radio program, that means you're a guest like you're in my house. And the abortion issue is a non-winning conversation, so we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, sure.
Okay, I want to respect that with Tom.
Well, yeah, I'll talk to you about anything. You want to talk about that too? I'll talk to you about it. But
No, we're not going to do that. You
right.
asked that, and it's just
All right.
there's no winning.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, not going to do it. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the death with dignity law. It's gone. It didn't make the funnel. Will it be brought back?
No.
Never?
Well, no, not never, but it's not going to be this year.
Okay.
Didn't make the funnel. I don't see it sneaking in the back door. I don't think that anybody in leadership wants that put on the table this year. So,
Let me be a devil's advocate for a while. David Hurd and I were not good friends. But if I walked into a room, David would say, McCoy, how are you? This was old school, back in the old days when everybody just knew me as McCoy, from Hatfield to McCoy. He would say, McCoy, how are you? There are people saying that one of the reasons this law came up when it did was because David Hurd, who was very sick, had a debilitating disease that was about to take his life. There are those that would say that he took his own life because he couldn't have a death with dignity because we don't have that law. Isn't that a perfect example of why we should have that law in the books?
from a religious standpoint, I'll tell you that suicide is not something that's condoned in my faith. But from a societal standpoint, there are people that want to have some type of death with dignity. And David Hurd was a friend of mine, a wonderful human being, did a lot of good things in his lifetime, was an extremely interesting person to talk to. And I understood, I wasn't around him for the last year or so, but that's what I understood, was that he was actually trying to promote something in that area before his death. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very sad when someone takes their life that way. But that was a choice that he made.
Well, he didn't. You know, I watched my father-in-law, who was an active man until he was about 93, and then he fell ill, as so many of us do at 93 or 83. And I watched my mother-in-law take care of him for years, and she wouldn't leave his side. Now, that's the case that my father-in-law, because he was a Lutheran minister, he would have never wanted to have his own life taken. But, you know, I mean, let's talk apples and apples here. Once you go to a hospice, that's kind of what you're doing anyway. They're making you comfortable, and they're accelerating the time in which you're going to have to suffer. Now, I've had hospice nurses take offense to that, and I don't mean any offense to that. But I've been around it long enough to know that, you know, the phrase, let's start the drip, let's keep them comfortable, and then let's just see what happens. Right. And there's a lot of horrible suffering that has been avoided because of modern medicine today and the hospice theory.
Right, but with hospice, they're not actually allowing them, I mean, we're not giving them something to die. We're something to make them more comfortable. We're not as concerned about pain medication and the effect on internal organs at that point, but we're also not trying to kill them.
I agree. And death with dignity is you would be able to have a doctor prescribe lethal drugs that would end your life.
Right. And, you know, we are a country that believes in religious freedom, and you have the right to decide what your relationship is with your God or no God if you don't believe in God. And that's kind of where these laws have come into effect, at least out in the West Coast, like in Oregon. They've decided to put a law in the books that would allow people to make that choice. And not everybody has to make that choice, but a lot of people are going to Oregon now to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I'm going to be 57 this year, and that's not that old, but I'm beginning to feel the rings on my trunk. You know, the eyesight, I have to get glasses more often, and I don't breathe as easily as I do, and I certainly am not as active as I should be. And I don't want to be a burden on my family and my kids. I know where I'm going. Jesus is going to welcome me into the pearly gates, and whether I choose to accelerate my time, my ending, that's not going to have anything to do with my salvation.
Can I ask a question in terms of the difference between death with dignity and, say, the fear that some people feel in regards to well, here's the concern, right, is that a medical doctor or a medical outfit or a bureaucracy would say it's time for this person to die, that bureaucracy would take over and that they would be the ones to determine that someone needs to die. I mean, how's the difference between that, which I don't think anybody would be for, I hope no one would be for, and death with dignity where it's an individual or a family's choice? Is there a difference there, or are those similar?
I think it's a huge difference, and that's kind of, you remember when Charles Grassley was talking about the death committee?
Yeah.
With regard to the Obama law. There's nothing like that in the United States right now, and I hope there never is something like that. It'd be horrible. But for an individual to make a conscious choice that they want their life to end due to some illness that's going to eventually end their life anyway, maybe in a very painful fashion, I think that's different than having a third party tell you that. With families, I don't know that families are necessarily included in this type of decision-making process. I don't know what the Oregon law says, but I still think it has to be the individual themselves.
Yeah.
Families occasionally will make the decision to remove some type of life support, right?
Right. Yeah, and I will tell you, and we can continue this conversation, the worst rule out there is a DNR. Do not resuscitate. You do not want to have a do not resuscitate in your what do they call it? Your
Medical
power
file.
of attorney. Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Tom Henderson, head of the Polk County Democrats, he's in the house live with you, live on The Truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Minutes after 4/21, 16th day of February, Lord's Year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Welcome to the second hour, the second segment of the second hour of the second day of this week's Max World Live. You can always find our programs anytime you want them. You can go to macmccoy.com. That's MacMcKoy.com, and go under shows, drop to Max World Live, and all of our shows are on YouTube there. You can go all the way back, Bob, you can go all the way back, 7 years?
Yes, 7 years.
That's how long. I mean, how long ago did you and I start working together? That was we're in our 7th year.
I think that's correct.
So any program that we've ever done is right there on the YouTube, on the Google, as Bradshaw would like to say. My special guest today is Tom Henderson, chairperson for the Polk County Democrats. We've been talking a little bit about the Death with Dignity bill. Do you think you made the comment that you don't think Iowa's ready for that yet?
I don't think so, no. I think maybe someday it will. You know, Iowa's a pretty progressive state in a lot of regards, pretty open-minded, and in a good way. And I think someday that probably Iowa will be ready for it, but I just don't think they're quite ready for it yet.
Now, speaking of something else that's kind of like that, the medical marijuana law. This time, the bill was proposed by a Republican and by Representative County in West Des Moines. And, of course, one of the most outspoken families for the use of medical marijuana, the oil, which has no THC, right, Bob? So there's no hallucinogenics.
Right.
Would be Mayor Geer and his lovely wife. And they have a baby or a young child that has a disease, an ailment that they believe that national studies has shown that this medical marijuana oil could help reduce the seizures.
Is that epilepsy, Mac?
Well, it could be.
It's similar.
It could be grand mal epilepsy. It could be petite epilepsy. Not petite. There's another kind. Is that something that Iowa is ready for? Because I was surprised it didn't make it last year. I thought it would.
Right. That type of controlled substance issue, we have a lot of prescription drugs that are available to people that can be abused. And I think there's a lot of concern that marijuana has been abused in the past. But I think Iowa should be ready for that because in a lot of respects, marijuana can do some good for people with illness. Like you mentioned with regard to Steve Geer's daughter, it can be helpful. And then sometimes when people are suffering from cancer, it's my understanding that marijuana can actually help them with their appetite.
Glaucoma, yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of good uses for it. And I think that we should just regulate it like we do all other prescription drugs.
Talk to Colorado. They just brought in, $2 billion in tax revenue last year from selling marijuana. And yes, it was... what do they want to call it? Party marijuana.
Recreational. Hey, Tom, speaking of recreation, how do we address the need for the children who have epilepsy and glaucoma without getting into the discussion of general recreational use? Because I find that those are the people that, maybe cold-hearted, but I think those are the people that are behind the push for this. To gain the sympathy, and then the recreational use comes in afterwards. What's your feelings?
I don't think that that's the impression I get, especially when you have Republicans that are supporting the bill. I don't think they see that as an entryway to recreational use. I think they really are sincerely concerned about it being a controlled substance that can be used for good. Recreational use, I know there's a desire within our state to have it available for recreational use too. And I have had people in my own party advocate for that, to have it be legal, because they see it as a substance that adults should have access to like they do in Colorado. But we're only talking about the medical aspect of it, and that should be done. We should draft a law that everybody feels comfortable with. where we make it illegal to abuse it, but if you want to use it for medical purposes and have a doctor's order, it should be allowed.
Now, Bob, the chemistry that makes medical marijuana for these seizures and stuff like this oil that doesn't have the THC, how could that be abused?
Well, I think it depends on the manufacturer, meaning the people that extract it. Sometimes they don't get all of the THC out of it, so that's a problem, and it would have to be somehow regulated and tested and so forth so that you don't get the hallucinogenic effect or the sedative effect. But that's the one problem, and then supply. It's difficult to get that here, and it's still illegal.
We got a lot of dirt in Iowa. I mean, we're used to growing stuff.
Yeah, ditchweed. I mean, they used to grow it here in Iowa years and years ago for the hemp. But, I think that if it'll help a person, if they can extract that component, that can help. Because a lot of our medications come from plants, and that's where they will extract it and use it to help people. So I guess I don't have a problem with the medical use and using the cannabidiol, which is not an active part. But that definitely makes a difference for these people that suffer seizures.
And what if they wanted to say, let's have, what did you call it? Party marijuana?
Recreational.
What if they wanted that?
Colorado does have problems with that. They have set a limit, just like alcohol has a per se level here in the state. They have that in Colorado also. So if a person is driving under the influence, they'll take their blood and test it for the THC content, and if they're over a certain amount, then they'll be arrested the same way and tried.
Like an OWI.
Like an OWI. So they do have that. There are some horror stories that come out where somebody ate a brownie that had marijuana in it, and that person died. They were instructed to only take a little bit, and they ate the whole thing, and then they died from that.
But, Bob, that's the danger of having it in your home and little kids getting a hold of something and ODing on it.
Yeah, I mean, there are problems that they're coming up that they're seeing. So it's still, Colorado is still a test state, and so we're learning from what they're going through right now.
Tom Henderson is with us. He is the chair of the Polk County Democrats. I have to be honest. 8 years ago when Bradshaw and I were on the air, I thought that if we elected Barack Obama and he somehow was lucky enough to get a second term, recreational marijuana would be absolutely in. And I'm surprised that hasn't been done on the national level.
Well, I think they see it as more of a state issue. And the thing that Barack Obama did was he said, I'm not going to have the federal government enforcing the law, because there is a law nationally with regard to that as well. And for instance, in Colorado, the federal government is not preventing them from having marijuana.
But they could.
They could.
Schedule 1, controlled substance.
They could. And a new president may change that policy. Same with California. A lot of people are concerned that in California there is a prescription use for marijuana that's being abused by people because they just get a prescription from their doctor and go get the marijuana they want. And I know that probably a lot of your listeners are aware of that as well, thinking that if you open the door here in Iowa, that's what's going to happen. But really, the stuff we're talking about here in Iowa wouldn't be good for recreational use.
Yeah, and there's always a slippery slope, and quite frankly, we've been running down that slippery slope since 1776.
Right.
As a free country, we just seem to continually acquire new laws and new things that I don't think our forefathers ever would have thought. In fact, that's probably why they went running from Europe, so they didn't have to deal with that.
Well, I still think we have a great nation, and I love that we wrestle with new things that come along all the time. I think we just had a Supreme Court justice who died who said he believed in a dead Constitution. But I really think we still are dealing with a living, legal system that always has to be adjusted to accommodate, new challenges that we face.
All right, let's segue, because you know what great disc jockeys do. We segue. Let's segue into Scalia. Were you listening when I was on my rant about an hour ago in the car?
No, I was not.
All right. I cannot believe that a sitting Supreme Court justice who was pivotal in almost every case that was heard could die and not have an autopsy. And there is now a gentleman, and this is from the Des Moines Register page, so I'm not going to one of those goofy sites online. But there's a gentleman by the name of William Ritchie, and he's the former head of criminal investigation for the D.C. police. He wrote, Scalia was found dead in his room at a luxury hunting resort on the state's Big Bend region by its owners. It took hours for authorities to find a justice of the peace. When they did, the judge, Guevara, pronounced Scalia dead of natural causes without ever seeing the body, which is permissible under Texas law, and without ordering an autopsy. On Sunday, the U.S. Marshal Service, which provides security for the Supreme Court justices, said that Scalia had declined a security detail while at the ranch, so marshals were not present when he died. Guevara also declared Scalia dead based on information from law enforcement officials who assured her there was no foul play. But she spoke to Scalia's doctor, who told her that Scalia had just been in the previous Wednesday and Thursday for a shoulder injury and that he seemed in good condition. Yes, he suffered from several chronic conditions, but he was awaiting. She said she was awaiting statements from the physician to complete Scalia's death certificate. The manager of the El Paso funeral home that handled Scalia's body said Scalia's family insisted, quote unquote, insisted on not having an autopsy done. And that decision has spawned a host of conspiracy theories. Now, Tom, I don't have a tinfoil hat on, do I?
No,
that
you
can see?
No, I can confirm that.
Am I just being goofy here by thinking that this could be foul play?
Well, no, I don't think that way. I think more what you're doing is raising an issue about whether or not we should just give everybody comfort about the way he died and make sure that wasn't an issue, because conspiracy theories arise from this type of thing. In a lot of states, if a person dies in the presence of a doctor, they don't require an autopsy because the doctor can attest as to why they died because they were a witness to it. But in most states, I think if they just find somebody dead, an autopsy is mandated. So I don't know why in Texas they allowed them to have that option, but evidently they do.
Well,
but you remember when John Kennedy died?
Yes.
They had a huge battle in Texas about whether he should have an autopsy right there in Dallas or be carted out. So I know Texas had a law then that said if you're a murder victim, you have to be submitted to an autopsy. And so I don't know for this, if you just discover someone's body, why you wouldn't want to have an autopsy. No one was present when he died.
Well, and you've got a Supreme Court now that in more than 100 years sits on one person's opinion. It's almost always 4-4, and then Scalia walks in and he's the one that decides whether we're going to get a conservative judgment or a liberal judgment.
That's usually Kennedy.
Huh?
That's usually Kennedy's the swing vote. Scalia is usually a pretty conservative vote. It's Kennedy that is usually the swing one.
All right. And so we've got 6 cases right now that's already scheduled before the Supreme Court.
Right.
2 of them involving executive decisions by the president. Now, I'm not a fan of Barack Obama's, but that doesn't mean I don't want to be fair and I don't want to be goofy about stuff. I don't care where he was born. I think he was born in Hawaii. I don't think we need to go down that road. I would like to see his college transcripts because I don't understand why he won't release them. But if you're a person who doesn't take the same love for life that I do, that you do, that Bob does, that most of us listening do, and you know you can change the course of this country by eliminating a 70-year-old judge with no questions, am I just watching too many movies?
No, I think the law is in place for more than just Supreme Court justices. To your point, it could be just somebody whose wife says they found their husband dead in their bed. How do we know that the wife didn't murder him and poison him? That's one of the reasons why a lot of states require that if there isn't a medical practitioner present at the time of death, then they do an autopsy just to make sure there's no foul play. I don't think what you're requesting is out of line at all. And yeah, I realize he played a very important role in our society, and I understand, your additional concern there. When you take him out of the mix, then the balance of the court is upset. Regardless of whether Kennedy's a swing vote or not, he's not the swing vote when it's 4-4.
Right.
And that's the point you're making.
Yeah, and we've got the deferred. Bob, help me. Well, we've got several cases that are going to come before the Supreme Court that directly affect the Obama administration. So anyway, we're coming up on a break. We'll leave that alone. We'll let the experts do more about it. Hopefully before they put the body in the ground, or if they're going to cremate it, somebody will stop and just say, hey, let's just put this to bed. All right, when we come back, the primaries and dram shot laws. That's Iowa, and it's here, live on The Truth.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rater, it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Our 438 Salem Radio Network News at the top. It's the 16th day of February in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Tomorrow, I can't wait for this show. And I really can't wait for you to hear this young lady. She calls herself the conservative black chick. Her name is Cheryl Wright. That's with a W. Crystal, sorry. She has been on C-SPAN. She has been on other radio shows. And she is a professional from the Virginia, Washington, D.C. area that just makes a lot of sense. You just wonder why more people aren't listening to somebody like her. She'll be our guest tomorrow live here in Mac's World. I've got Tom Henderson. Lucky to have him here today. He's the chair of the Polk County Democrats. Did you fall off your chair right there when I said that? Yeah, I love Democrats. You know, if we didn't have Democrats, you know what we'd have? We'd have a selfish, right-wing, we're not going to do anything for anybody else except for ourselves kind of government.
Kind of boring.
Well, it'd be dangerous is what it'd be, just like if we only had a Democratic government. Democrats running the government. I can't imagine that. I'd be paying Bernie Sanders 90% taxes if I had to. All right, let's get to the primaries last. I want to hold those over to last. A lot of people don't know that if you hold a liquor license in the state of Iowa, you are required to carry dram shop insurance. Now, I don't know why it's called that. Do you?
Well, it goes back to a long time ago, but dram is a measure of alcohol, and that's where the expression comes from. I would like to have a dram. They used to pour drams, and you drink them. It's like a shot, but it's a little bit bigger.
So the dram shop, SHOP laws,
right?
Or is it shot?
Shop
laws.
Yeah.
There are some powers to be on Capitol Hill here in Iowa that would like to eliminate that. Now, first of all, let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of this law. A liquor license owner, and he pays that based on capacity. So if you have a place that holds 30 people, you're not going to pay the same amount of dram shop law that, for instance, the Iowa State Fair pays. I would imagine they're the largest dram shop holder. Second would probably be Prairie Meadows. Then you have all your Wells Fargo would be in there.
Well, I imagine at the state fair, they require people who are selling alcohol to have the dram shop insurance. But to your point, it is based on volume and sales, I think, more than anything else when they're trying to underwrite it. But there are 12 states in our country that do not have dram shop laws. I don't think you can sue a bar or liquor licensee, and they don't have civil laws. In Iowa, until they adopted the dram shop law, I don't really think they were liable. It's a strict liability law, which means it's defined by statute. It wasn't defined by a court. It's defined by the legislature.
Okay.
It's a little different.
244-0077. It's your voice I want to hear. Feel free to call in and tell me what you think. Do you think we need dram shop laws? What that means is if somebody comes in, I don't know, let's just take your regular casual drunk like Frank. And Frank walks into a bar and he's over-poured, he's oversold alcohol. And then he leaves the bar and he goes out and commits an act that breaks the law. The bar, the restaurant, Wells Fargo, can be held liable, and that's where that dram shop insurance steps in and helps out the case.
I had a buddy years ago that was being watched in Prairie Meadows, and when he got a certain amount of drinks, they stopped serving him while he was sitting at a machine playing the slots.
Yeah, so they can do that.
Right. That's another interesting thing. If you have a gambling establishment, your patrons cannot be intoxicated when they're gambling. And they have DCI agents at those facilities, usually undercover. And if they find that you're allowing people to gamble who are intoxicated, you could lose your gambling license. So it's a real serious deal.
And aren't the winnings held back if the person's intoxicated?
That I don't know.
Okay. All right. So obviously the good side of dram shop would be that if someone is injured by someone who is overserved or drunk coming out of an establishment that sells liquor, there is a process in place that family can be rewarded damages for the injuries or damages that the alcohol caused.
Right. With dram shop, the bar has to serve an individual when it knew or should have known the person was intoxicated or near intoxication when they served them and sold them a beverage. And then that intoxication has to be a cause of the injury.
Now, Bob, let me ask you, what do they determine as intoxication? Is that 0.08, or is that just having to do with behind the car?
That's for operating a motor vehicle in the state.
All right, so if a guy walks out of a bar and is walking down the street and picks up a rock and throws it at another individual, there's no car involved, there's no DOT-OMWI, how is their quote-unquote intoxication determined?
Public intox, but they don't even have to get a level. If you look like you're intoxicated and you do something like that, they can get you and arrest you for public intox. You agree with that?
Right. And with dram shop, that happens a lot. You don't have a blood test, but if you have witnesses that say the person's slurring their words, having difficulty walking, having difficulty with fine motor control, or they've had a change in personality. You know, some people get silly, they laugh a lot. That's an indication they're probably intoxicated. So you can do it on visual like Bob just indicated. You don't have to have a blood draw.
So what would be the advantage of Iowa dropping this law that requires dram shop?
There isn't any advantage except to the bar owner. The bar owner wouldn't have to pay for insurance for a dram shop anymore.
But that doesn't take away the liability.
Well, there is no civil liability against a bar for over-serving.
In Iowa or period?
Period. Certainly not in Iowa. In Iowa, it's all governed by statute. It was enacted by the legislature to say, bar owners, you have to be responsible in your sale and service of alcohol. There was not a civil action. Civil action is one defined by the court. They say, yes, you can sue somebody, like negligence for not shoveling your sidewalk. Let's say that's more of a court-defined type of area. But there was no liability, and then they enacted the dram shop law that said, okay, this is a deal that we're going to make with bar owners. You're only liable for certain amounts of service, and that's a strict law that if somebody wants to sue you, they have to meet all these requirements, but we're going to protect people who are injured by intoxicated people. Now, the intoxicated person cannot sue the bar. There is no lawsuit against it. So if somebody gets drunk and crashes their car on the way home, they can't sue the bar.
But the person that they hit
or their loved ones can sue the bar. So let's say that they were driving home drunk and they got killed. The spouse who survived them or the children that survived them can sue the bar. But it has to be an innocent party.
All right. Tom Henderson is my guest. He's the chair of the Polk County Democrats. I just don't know why you wouldn't keep that law on the books. It just seems safe.
Well, 38 other states agree with you, Mac. They think it's a good law. It does help to protect people who might be the victims of that. And it also, I think, may prevent bars from over-serving, too, because they don't want their liquor liability rates to go up. They need to be responsible in their service, and they know that they can get sued. So, therefore, I think they try to comply. A lot of bars do. Maybe the listeners think they don't, but I think a lot of bars really do try to have standards and comply with it.
You have to.
Yeah.
Tom, you were saying that the advantage would be that they wouldn't have to pay for the insurance.
Right.
Isn't that to their disadvantage if they could be sued anyway?
No, there's no civil law right now available.
Can't be sued.
Yeah, the court would have to recognize that. And there's no case right now on point that says that you can be sued in a civil court based on some type of Supreme Court decision. Now, if they did away with the dram shop law, maybe the Supreme Court would be open to allowing for a lawsuit like that. But there isn't any. It's strict liability. It's only statutorily defined. That's the only way you can sue a bar.
As an attorney, are you? And I'm going to get the term wrong, but are you for limited being able to be sued for something? What's the term I'm missing?
Well, sometimes they call it tort reform.
Yeah.
I have a great deal of faith in our jury process here in Iowa. I think our jurors make really good decisions. People who claim that they're for tort reform think that jurors are out of control, and I don't think that's true. One great thing about our court system is we do empower our citizens to make decisions about disputes that occur between people, and I really do trust the jury system. I think it's fantastic. I think it empowers really our citizens to make decisions in that regard. When you start to put limitations on tort liability and all that type of stuff, really, I think you're taking away that power. So,
Tom Henderson, Polk County Chair of the Polk County Democrats, is here. Well, you've been waiting. Of course, you knew. We talk about it, the primaries. Where does it sit? The left and the right. We come down to South Carolina this weekend. What are you thinking? What's everybody thinking? We'll talk about it next, live here on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
right, 10 minutes before 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. Hank, the Bible Answer Man. Ask Hank. 1-888-ASK-HANK. Tom Henderson, the chair of the Polk County Democrats, is with us. We've got one more bit left, and I want to talk about the primaries. You were looking up the next caucuses and the next primaries.
Nevada Democratic caucus is Saturday, February 20th.
That's this Saturday.
Yeah, and then the Tuesday, the 23rd, is the in Nevada Republican caucus. And then Saturday, February 27th, is South Carolina. It says Democrat. Is that?
No,
they'd be both, right?
It'd
It just
both.
has a D, but it's probably both.
And then Super Tuesday is the following?
March 1st. Tuesday, March 1st.
So that's 2 weeks from today.
And then you have Alabama, Alaska, Samoa, Arkansas,
2 weeks
Colorado.
from today is Super Tuesday. That's it.
Yeah.
Bob, isn't South Carolina for Republicans this Saturday?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
Well,
No, Nevada.
no. Wait a minute. South Carolina. No, it does say South Carolina.
South Carolina is this
the 20th
Saturday for Republicans.
Wow.
And then
Yeah,
Tuesday
you're right.
is Nevada for Democrats.
It's amazing. Why do they split them up? Why don't they do them same day?
That is correct,
Who
Frank.
knows? Why do they do what they do? All right. So are you at liberty to say who you were for? I mean, did you get behind anybody, or does your position require you to remain neutral?
I can do whatever I want. I decided that I liked Martin O'Malley, so that's who I backed.
Okay.
But he's gone now.
All right. So now do you have a choice, or you'll just back the nominee?
I have a choice, but right now I'm just neutral. We have a county convention coming up, and I usually chair it. We'll see what happens.
You can still write him in.
It's difficult in the caucus situation to write anybody in. But
Is there any with the current field? Is there any way you would not support the Democratic nominee?
No, I'll support the Democratic nominee.
No matter
Absolutely.
who it is?
Yes.
All right. Do you see anything? Now, here I'm going to use my tinfoil hat again, because there are those people who wonder if this FBI investigation into Hillary will cause an indictment, and then Uncle Joe Biden will step in and save the party, and he'll be the nominee. Is that just cartoons?
That's cartoons.
Okay. Because Hillary will not be indicted?
But yeah, first of all, I don't think she did anything that it indicated to me that she violated federal law. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I do expect, unfortunately, the Clintons get investigated a lot by the Republicans. But, like Hillary Clinton said when she was here in Des Moines, she said, they've thrown everything they can at me, but I'm still standing. It's like she has been vetted probably more than any other candidate that's run for office.
Hey, Tom, I have one question. Even if you're a Hillary defender, and I've heard Nia Malika Henderson say she has a complicated relationship with the truth, and other Democrats say they have to take everything to the edge of illegality. That's their supporters who say that. What is your defense of the Clintons having to press the envelope on every single issue to where there's always some shadowy conflict of interest involved? Even if they don't go illegal, why do they have to go that close to the edge?
Well, I don't know that they do, but they certainly get investigated a lot. They started off with a Whitewater investigation with Bill Clinton, and that came up with nothing. And they continued to investigate him to the point where they finally got him to lie under oath about having an affair with a White House intern. That's unfortunate, but that's what it took. And you think about all the different areas they investigated, whether it was Vince Foster's suicide or anything else they could throw at him. It's like they're always looking for something there, and most of the time, there's nothing. So with Hillary Clinton, I know that they accuse her of that, and the perception's there. I admit it. The perception's there. It shows up in polling. People don't trust her, but actually having hard, fast data that indicates she lies is not as always in abundance.
The FBI has turned over emails that say they should not have been on her personal server.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. They say, and she says that they weren't classified when she got them. I think the whole point is she shouldn't have had a private phone taking emails from the State Department.
Right.
I mean, because they issue BlackBerries, and if we could roll back time, really that's probably the only thing she should have used to communicate with.
All right.
But I don't know of any breach of national security that occurred as a result of that. I just think that is the protocol.
All right. Bernie's on a hot roll.
Yes.
And it's basically the millenniums.
Yes.
I was speaking to a millennium the other day, and she had no concept of the superdelegates. She was a Bernie supporter. Had no concept of the super delegates. And when I explained to her that Bernie could win every single primary and Hillary Clinton could walk away with the nomination because of super delegates, she thought that was very unfair. Did I miscommunicate that to her?
No, you didn't. Super delegates make up a fairly significant part of the national delegation. So those folks can be recruited just like any other delegate.
Are you a super delegate?
No.
No, okay.
No, I don't think so, no. At any rate, they can be recruited just like any other potential delegate. And so Bernie Sanders can go out and recruit them just like Hillary Clinton can. But Hillary Clinton seems to have a significant number of those, especially with regard to Congress people. It seems like a lot of them have endorsed her. It doesn't mean that they necessarily have to stick with that endorsement because they're not bound by law. And if Sanders makes a terrific run, then they can switch. So it's not a done deal. But I think your perception is a really good perception to have, that is a significant part of the nomination process. And if she locks them all up, it makes it much tougher for him if he's running a photo finish to the end on all the states.
Yeah.
If he's just tying her.
Yeah.
And the New Hampshire thing was a little troubling, too, because the news media jumped on the fact that she lost the state, but because of the super delegates coming from New Hampshire, she actually has more delegates from New Hampshire in their delegation.
As a Democrat, who do you hope the Republicans nominate? You think you got everybody beat?
Well, I always think it's bad luck to pick your opponent. So I don't, I think we could beat any of their candidates. Right now, I talked to a lot of Republicans. They're becoming more and more to the realization it might be Donald Trump. They didn't think that 2 or 3 months ago, but he seems to be dominant right now with regard to their party.
And do you believe that anybody can beat Donald Trump on your side?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that anybody could beat Donald Trump on this side. Although I will tell you, he is a very strong candidate.
A candidate or a showman?
A showman, whatever you want to call it.
I was for Donald until about 3 or 4 weeks. Well, it would have been about 3 weeks before the caucus. And when he made that statement that my followers are so loyal that he could shoot somebody in Manhattan and they'd still vote for him, I heard Donald Trump say, Mac is such a fool and he's so naive that I could shoot somebody and he'd still vote for me.
Well, I think Mac changed his mind on Donald Trump when he made that statement, and I think you should give yourself a little bit of credit. But he would be a bad president. He may be a great candidate, but would be a very poor president.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. Been a long time. Hope you come back soon.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Mac.
Yeah, you're in my phone. Tom Demo. DEMO.
I can take care of kitchen remodeling and anything else.
Anything else. All right. Well, thank you for all the work you do for the Democratic Party and also for what you do from Iowa. And thanks for being a guy who loves Jesus. Because if everybody just loved Jesus, boy, we'd have a much better country in hand.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here. Tom Henderson, chair of the Polk County Democrats. Tomorrow, conservative black chick. I'm not being racist. That's what she calls herself. Listen, I think you'll enjoy it. Until I see you tomorrow, do me a favor. Think of that person you need to forgive. Yep, you've been carrying that for a while. Forgive him tonight. Because remember, Jesus said, you will be forgiven as you forgive. I'll see you in church.